Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is Two Catholic Dudes. My name is Ryan Klaus.
My name is Danny Cleary.
And as always, we are not priests, we are not theologians. We're just two Catholic dudes, and we're talking about our faith.
Fantastic. And today we are excited to finally have another guest back, my good friend, Jason Flame. So Jason, welcome. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited.
I know you dressed up.
I felt like I was going on a completely professional shoot today. So,
well, I mean, come on,
it is.
You know what?
I'm like, I appreciate the effort.
Well, because you asked, he texted me yesterday. He goes, "What do I wear to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Oh, whatever, man." And then he answered the door. I'm like, he never wears jeans. You're wearing jeans. You got your brand new sneakers on,
right?
Dress shirt. I'm in sweatpants. Nobody can see, but
I like your shirt.
I'm wearing my your karate school.
We do this like a newscast where you like to look professional from the top and then wear whatever you want.
Nobody knows.
Or like, do you ever take a when you take your senior picture in high school?
Yeah, they just put like the fake.
It's the fake front tucks on.
You just put your arms into like the Awesome.
But yeah, thanks for dressing up.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
His backwards hat. I got my hoodie, but you look very nice. So today, you guys are watching this in the future as always, but today is 2 days after Christmas. We still have the Christmas tree up. But it is still accurate to have it up when you guys will be listening.
Right. Because the common misconception is that Christmas ends on the Epiphany. But, Ryan, when does it end? You're the liturgical master.
It does not end till the baptism of the Lord, which is the following week.
Wow.
Yeah. So leave those decorations up. I know even a lot of churches will start taking decorations down after the Epiphany.
Yeah.
But I've heard that it's correct to leave them up all the way through the baptism.
Yeah, even at your houses, at least leave up that nativity. At least leave up your nativity as long as you can. Because I always laugh because people are like, the wise men don't get there till the Epiphany. And then they're like, they get there,
it's
put it away.
See you later. See you next year.
Shoot.
They didn't get to hang out.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, we're excited today. We're talking about Jason. Jason was not born a Catholic like Ryan and I were. We are both cradle Catholics. You are not.
Correct.
Right. So we're going to talk all about that today. We'll talk a little bit about how we met. Jason is kind of a blend of both worlds for me because he goes to the parish that I work at and we've been involved there. But also Jason is the reason I got into wrestling that we very rarely talk about on the podcast, but we'll dive into it a little bit today.
Yep, they wrestled together. But before we get into it, I think we forgot with our last couple guests, but we were trying to do this with every guest.
Yes.
We want to ask you the question, Jason. What is the craziest, wackiest, weirdest, unusual thing that's happened to you or, at Mass that you've seen?
Yeah. So we were talking about this right before we got started, and I don't know if it's wacky or crazy, but it was just for me totally out of sorts. Is that as we go up to receive the Eucharist, my son had his retainer in and wasn't willing to put it in his mouth because he thought it was going to get stuck or whatever. Sure. So he started to walk back to the pew, and Monsignor chased after him and made sure that he consumed it.
Right.
Immediately.
Right.
And so it was awkward because no one in our family ever had that happen.
Sure.
I don't think that I'd ever seen it happen. And my son was totally and utterly mortified.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Yeah. So, but yeah. And since then, we kind of like now watch and see how many times that happened. It actually happens a lot more than
more than you think. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so what did he do? Yeah, to pop that retainer back off and then just consume it right there.
Yeah. I take that back. I don't know. I don't know if he actually took it out. I think
he might have just went for it.
He's and then clean the retainer later.
Sure. Yeah. No. See, the thing of it is it's, and I will say our pastor Monsignor Hernandez, was it Monsignor Hernandez? Yes. So he has a devout respect and protection of the Eucharist, which I respect so much. Is that I've watched it happen because obviously in a lot of cases your son was just like, oh, my retainer's in. Like it wasn't any, there's no ill will there,
right?
But there's a lot of the times, unfortunately, what happens is people that are visiting at Mass and they don't understand what it is, they've never received communion before, they kind of go up and they're like, all right, whatever, like I'm just here to get this is part of the experience, and they don't have a concept of what it is.
So people come in there like, there's a snack with this.
And so like, I don't want so there's gluten free, I don't want this, and they don't have any concept of what it is, and that's why Monsignor's like, his duty there is to protect the beauty of the Eucharist.
Right. Well, and and just on that, we always bring our friends to mass whenever they spend the night at our house, and so Mason, my son, had a friend had a friend spending the night, and like, if you're spending the night and we're going to church, you're going with us.
Love that.
So even my daughter's boyfriend, like, he hasn't been going to mass, and he's Catholic, but hasn't been going much, but when we go, he goes.
Yeah, cool.
But so Mason brings a friend. Same thing. I actually told him, because he's not Catholic and he wasn't sure what to do. And I said, well, if you want to walk up, I said, just cross your arms and keep your arms crossed when you go up. Well, he went up, but as he went up, he dropped his arms. So Monsignor presented host, and he took it, and he started to walk away. And so same kind of situation again. And again, he had no idea, but so just on the same lines.
Yeah, and that's the duty of that we need to push more for our catechists at these, people in my position, pastors, teachers, explain what to do, what protocol is, because we don't want to encourage people to not come to mass that don't have a full understanding or aren't fully received all the sacraments. We want them to come and see the beauty of it, and so they're encouraged to get more prepared and get more educated on what's going on. But we do need to prepare them and give them a better chance to understand what's going on.
Exactly, yeah.
And
you can't explain it every mass, but I think it is good when there's a wedding or a funeral, because I would play weddings and funerals all the time, and that's when that happens most of the time, because a lot of people that are attending those services are not Catholic, and they don't know.
Right.
So I think it's really great if the pastor or presider says, this is communion reserved for Catholics in good standing with the church. If not, whatever, you can come receive a blessing if they do that. And explain it to them, and that way you run into less problems, because I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, Christmas Eve Mass, it happened like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
and I've been the Eucharistic minister before, because as extraordinary ministers of the Eucharist at the Novus Ordo Mass that we are part of, it's our duty too. If someone doesn't, we have to go and say, hey, you need to consume that immediately, please, because of what we believe that Eucharist is. Anyway, so
hey, good on you though for bringing those friends to mass. That's a great way to evangelize.
Yeah, my dad did the same thing. He was always like, "Oh well, they can spend the night Saturday night, but we're going to mass Saturday morning." So sometimes my buddies would be like, "I'm not spending."
We usually go at 7:45, so they're super excited about staying up late and then going to mass with us.
Love it.
They've never gone.
Wow. Love it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about it before we get into how we met. I want to get to know you a little bit more and have our viewers get to know you more. So you were not born Catholic?
No, I was not.
Okay.
No. So, yeah, it's kind of we got plenty of time, right?
Yeah, please, by all means.
Get into it.
Growing up, my parents, I don't even remember going to church probably more than 2-3 times as a child. And I always asked my mom, a million times growing up, why don't we go to church? Or what are we? Is what I would ask. What are we? Everybody, Christian, Jewish, Catholic, whatever.
Right.
And what are we? Well, we're Christian. Okay. Well, explain that to me. Why don't we go to church? Well, and her answer was always, when you're old enough, you'll figure it out and you'll choose on your own. And I was like, okay. And as an adult now, like looking back, I respect that decision in a way, but I also wish that maybe I had a little more direction,
sure.
A little bit more encouragement. Cause I don't think we ever went to church on Christmas, Easter, anything. It just wasn't a high priority.
Right.
Although, I was raised Christian values and talked about Christ but it wasn't a regular thing that we did.
Letting the kids decide sometimes it's good intentions, but they don't really know what they want. Remember, we were talking about that for Youth Day. We can get into it. They let the kids decide. There was like leaders, kids that would help lead the planning for Youth Day. Yeah. And they would be like, well, let's just let the kids decide what to do. But like,
they don't know.
They don't know what they want.
They're still forming as human beings.
They're still forming.
And I think the thing is you don't know what you don't know either.
Right.
So it's like
that's a huge point.
How do I plan, or how do I commit to something or have faith in something that I really don't even know where to start.
Right.
Or how to make that decision. So, I met my wife, I was a teenager, and she was raised Catholic, her entire family Italian Catholics. And, when we first started dating, we would go to mass often. You know, it was kind of a cool thing, because like I always got into it because it was like, we're going to go to mass and then we're going to go out to dinner and then we're going to spend time with her parents. And I got to know her parents, you know, really well that way. And
cool.
It was interesting because, you know, my experience at first was just, I'm just there with my girlfriend. But I'm trying to understand, trying to learn.
Anyway, so you're talking about how, so you would go to mass with your girlfriend, who's now your wife, but your girlfriend at the time. And that was kind of your first introduction to going to Catholic mass.
Correct. Yeah. So that was kind of our, you know, it was our Saturday thing, right? We would always go out to dinner after, and it's how I actually initially got a better relationship with her parents, which was nice because it was tying everything in.
Right.
You know, as I grew up as a child, you know, didn't go to church or mass at all. But I had a lot of friends that were Catholic, and it sounds kind of weird. I've actually told you this story probably before, that I always thought that if I was, because my parents didn't give me direction on which way I was going to go, I guess. And I just somehow always knew, even as a child, that I wanted to be Catholic and that I would become Catholic. I don't know how or why. I knew that even though I didn't have that label, I guess, right? I chose it anyway. Grew up with, you know, a Hispanic family that, you know, our neighbors, that like, these people are the best people on the planet, helped save us a ton as I was growing up. But anyway, they were Catholic, and I would watch the traditions, and I just had that feeling, right?
That draw to it.
Yeah. And so you know, as we were dating, we went to mass. It started to become a little more sporadic, and where it really picked up was when my daughter was born, and you know, we chose to baptize my daughter Catholic. And I said, well, how can we raise our daughter or our children Catholic? And I haven't made that commitment or decision. So it was after my daughter was baptized that I decided to take part in the RCIA program.
Okay.
And I went through all my sacraments in that program. It was awesome, really great experience. And everything was done, you know, at the parish that I'm at now, at Holy Cross.
Wow.
So my kids and myself have all been baptized, and well, my son will be confirmed next year. Yeah. So all in the same church, which I think is really cool. I
think that's really a cool thing, because I as you know, I work with teenagers. I was your daughter's confirmation teacher. I'm your son's confirmation teacher. But I see so many times where the parent is not like the grandparent a lot of the times, like, oh, please get them confirmed, get them baptized. It's important to me. And the parent's kind of like, whatever about it. Like,
sure.
The amount of kids I see get dropped off at mass, and then the parent goes off. Yeah. And the kid has to walk into mass by themselves. And the fact that you made the commitment to, how can I ask my children and push my children to believe in this faith and to practice this faith that I'm not even going to do. And, and the fact that you dove into it and said, like, this is what I want to do. That's a really cool thing. And I think that it is a great example to a lot of parents out there, that if you want your children to practice the faith, you have to be willing to do it yourself. Right. Catholicism is and I know that you're a big family man. Being Catholic and Catholicism is a huge family-based faith. It very much is. The importance of family life and the importance of togetherness is huge. Right. So that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, and like you said, so many families, they just want to check off that box, and it doesn't really mean anything. But the fact that you said, you know what, I need to be that example. We, you know, my wife and I need to be that example for our children. And so you dove right in. I think that's so fantastic. That's just a really amazing thing.
Yeah, and it's funny you guys mentioned, you know, confirmation class and the program that the kids go through. I've sat in those meetings, and I know, like, some of the thought process, like some of them are literally there to check, like, we got to just get this done.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to get
Where
this
do I
done.
write my check so I can move on?
And I find that so odd and strange that it's a checking off of a box. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really think of it that way.
Well, something that I really liked, that I enjoyed, and I'll bring it up now, is at my confirmation orientation this year, the year one for your son. He is very seldom, does it ever happen? I know it's because of schedule, whatever. Are both parents at the orientation to sign up for their child. It's usually, sometimes I get parents and the kid comes late, or the kid comes in and they're like, where's your parent? Oh, they're in the car or whatever. But like, you and your wife were both there to be like, oh no, this is his new thing. And I was like, wow, heck yeah. Like, look at that. That's a cool thing.
That speaks volumes. And whether the child knows that or not, they can sense it and they feel it. And they're aware that the extra effort is being put in by the parents when that happens. And
I hope so.
Yeah.
It adds a level of importance. Even if they don't feel it now,
right?
It stems into it later.
Well, and that's the thing is that, you know, I'll admit, like, my daughter's 17. She's been confirmed. She's gone through and church and mass are not always her highest priority.
Right.
And there's sometimes that as a parent I have to, you know, I mean, I have to flex a little bit, but as long as she knows that should be a priority and that it's a priority for me.
Right.
You know, sometimes she'll miss mass and we go and I'm like, you know, just know that this is something later. I know that later she's going to feel it even more so. Cause the same thing happened with my wife. We went to mass, you know, very consistently, and then life gets in the way and things change for us. And when we weren't going to mass as much as we could have or should have.
I was going to say, maybe you should have a support group with my parents. Cause when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and so on and so forth, mass was not a priority for me as well. And I went through all the programs, and my parents were the best examples of Catholicism that you could imagine.
Right.
And I just wanted to play heavy metal guitar and then in my 20s go out and party and stuff. And yeah, church was not on my mind at all. But, you know, that seed was still planted early. And
yeah, I think that's the key.
Right. And
for sure.
And I had that to direct me to where I am today.
And the fact that you're consistently still involved in the parish and going to mass and stuff like that, because we talked about it earlier, we were talking about how you had gone to mass more this year than ever before,
right?
And it was something that was really you took pride in, that you were excited about,
yeah.
And that's a cool thing. And even though, you know, I think sometimes that like we think like, well, kids will see that example, you know, and then they can continue to chase. You need an example to chase.
Absolutely.
And obviously we're all chasing God. We're all chasing Christ. He's our example. But the fact that you're I want to get to mass a priority for me is a cool thing. It lays that seed.
Well, and so maybe I'll just insert this here because I know you got some notes and stuff, and we may talk about how we met. But you know, you have to know that. I mean, I made this choice. You know, it was a goal of mine a year ago to be more involved. I mean, we've gone to mass quite consistently, but like never this consistently. And I have to say that you are one of the people to me. You know, we met through wrestling and other stuff, but I mean, I was excited to see the other day, you know, when I see you at mass, and I text you all the time. Hey, I went to mass today.
You do.
And it's like, you know, Danny's been the one for me to even reinforce it that much stronger. And as we get into our relationship and how we met, but I want that to be said.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And here's the thing is it goes both ways. Is I love putting my faith out there and being like, look how great like mass can be. And we talked about it a lot, you and I, because wrestling can be a weird place with some weirdos. So you and I kind of leaned on each other a lot during that time. Yeah. But I will say this as well. You've been posting on Facebook the whole month of December, because there's 24 chapters in the Gospel of Luke, and you've been reading a chapter of Luke every night.
Right. Good for you.
And when you
that
posted,
was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, when you posted
so cool.
it on Facebook, and I've read the whole Gospel of Luke, but I was like, what a cool thing. I'm going to do that too. So because of your post, I've been reading the Gospel of Luke every night. That's
cool.
Because I was like, what a cool thing to do during Advent, during the Christmas season.
Sure.
So it goes both ways. And I'm happy to hear that, you know, I could encourage you to for mass to be a priority. That's super cool. And all that. So I guess we'll get into a little bit of how we met. We can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's funny because so Jason, you run a Moorpark Karate and Krav Maga in Moorpark, where I grew up, where you live.
Yep.
So if you guys need
karate
for your kids, for you, yeah, this is the place to go. It's awesome.
You actually gave me a job there for a little while. I worked there when I was in between stuff. So yeah. Anyway.
This could be our first sponsored episode, unofficial sponsored episode right here.
I'm wearing the shirt.
There you go.
But my confirmation sponsor for confirmation, his son works for you, but was in karate, and he saw you post about wrestling on Facebook.
Right.
And he messaged me because he knew I was a big wrestling fan. He goes, "Hey, my son's whatever karate, and I actually went with him and his son to watch a wrestling show that you were on.
Right.
And I met him because he was my confirmation sponsor. He was my family friend, whatever. And then when I wanted to get into the wrestling world, I was like, how do I get in? And I had recognized you at Mass, at the gym, whatever. So that was like, I was like, that's my in. And I remember I like timed out when I saw you at the gym, like what day I could stalk in there. And, yeah, it was weird. So then I would like, I remember you were on the treadmill or something, and I was like, I'm gonna sit at this machine and just do it endlessly until you leave the treadmill, so I can.
It's on like zero. You're just like
walking. You would be like, oh, hello, and it worked out for me. But anyway, and then so that's how we ended up meeting for the first time. Is I was like, hey, how do I get into wrestling? That developed into a really genuine friendship way outside of wrestling now. Yeah. But it all stemmed from because of the connection with the parish that you had. And with my connection with the parish and your connection with your school and all that connected together, that community that we talk about so much in Catholicism that got me into this wrestling world. And then completely side story of how God works, I'm going to share this with you guys that I haven't even shared with Ryan yet, is I was at a wrestling show in downtown LA last month in November 30th, right after Thanksgiving. And I was wrestling. And on my Instagram, I got a direct message on Instagram of someone who said, hey, I saw you at the wrestling show and I noticed your tattoo. Do you believe in Christ? For those of you that don't know, my tattoo is the ichthus fish.
Show the camera here.
There we go. I have the ichthus fish with the cross and Philippians 4:13 in there. We'll talk more about that later. But they saw my tattoo and she said, are you a believer in Christ? And I said, yes. And then for the last several weeks, I've been talking to her about faith, about answering her questions about Catholicism, just speaking about Jesus' work in our life, all because I was at a wrestling show, all because I had a tattoo and it's been a really great conversation that I've been having with this girl and kind of honestly developing a little bit of a friendship over just talking about faith, all stemmed from because I was in wrestling, all stemming back from the fact that I met you at a gym, all stemming back that my confirmation sponsor knew you.
Right.
So it's crazy the way that God connects things.
Yeah, God's providence is in everything.
Yeah, and it was pretty wild. And back because the reason I got the tattoo that I got is because we hear the story of the fish being when believers would mark the fish as a sign of you can share your faith with me. It's safe. I'm a believer as well. And this person saw that symbol and thought, I can share my faith with that person. It was a pretty crazy experience. I was like very overwhelmed when I got that message.
Yeah.
I know she listens to the podcast, so it meant a lot to me to get your messages. So
look at you. We'll have an episode on tattoos. I know I'm not too keen on tattoos, but there's a great example of how tattoos can be used for evangelization.
That message affirmed the fact that I got the tattoo to begin with. And I was like, because I always thought I got it selfishly, but like my heart was in it. Like I want God to be the focus of this tattoo. It's not for vanity. It's not because it looks cool on my arm. It does, but it was for.
It does. It looks super awesome.
But it was my goal in my heart was for why this symbol, what this, and the fact that it literally happened was a pretty crazy thing for me. But anyway, so that was a long tangent of how we got connected through faith. But there we go. So yeah, man. But it's been really great to see because I've seen a tremendous amount of like faith becoming more of a priority to you. Since we've been friends.
Yeah.
And it's been a really cool thing.
Well, I met Jason through wrestling because I would just go to Danny's shows. I'm not a wrestling fan, but I'm like, I'm going to go support my bud. And now I know more than I would ever have dreamed of knowing about wrestling, but it's cool. And I know the intricacies of it and all the names of the moves and stuff. But I met Jason there and then Danny told me that he goes to Holy Cross and I was like, no way, that's so cool. And so then as I was playing music each week, I would look out and I'd be like, oh, there's Jason. That's awesome. And I would see you like every week and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then, and then we got to know each other a little bit more too, and it's just seeing that community of through church, but then through wrestling, and so to talk a little bit about wrestling now, like so you guys, I don't know. Let's just dive into that a bit.
Sure,
because we haven't talked about it too much.
The crazy world of wrestling.
I want to bring it into it. You guys,
here's the thing: is wrestling, and I talked a lot about it on the episode about Matt Gray, my youth minister, where I was a wrestling fan, and that's what even connected me to faith in the first place.
Right.
And I always thought I'd get into wrestling, and I would use it as a way, like, even though it's this crazy thing, I wanted to try to help anybody I could connect with their faith in using this other medium. Because whereas, wrestling is for me, and I like doing it, and it's a fun thing for me to do, and I really enjoy it. I thought, how can I want to spread the gospel in everything that I do. I want to bring God to however I can in all that I do. And so, the fact that my friendship with Jason helped with that, this connection I had with at shows where I had at one point, I wore a vest to the ring, and it said Jesus, I love Jesus on it, or I can't remember what it said. But when I would walk to the ring, I had a lot of younger kids who would stop me, and they were like, hey, I also love Jesus, when I would walk to the ring. So it was a really cool thing to be able to promote.
And now you're just a bad guy.
Yeah, as it goes. Now I play a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. But Jason is always the good. Have you ever been the bad guy?
Never.
Not yet.
He's always been the good guy.
Well, here's something about wrestling too that one of the greatest things, one of my greatest accomplishments in wrestling came about because of Danny and I and our relationship and how we felt that the wrestling world wasn't exactly our typical lifestyle.
We were a little out of the box,
right? Yeah. And so we started this program, to bring beginners into the program because breaking into wrestling business is it's a little wacky, it's a little crazy, and not always accepting, which is one of the biggest problems that we had, was that there were a lot of people that just wouldn't normally be accepted.
They're like,
in the
wrestling
world.
Who are you coming in here trying to wrestle?
Yeah,
a lot of egos and a lot
of
to the point of you don't belong in a wrestling ring. You don't fit the profile. You don't fit this and that. Not everybody should be a wrestler. And although I agree with that to a certain extent, we found it in ourselves to take what we loved about wrestling so much and what we loved about being role models and leaders is building people up. And so we created this beginners program, and we brought guys that normally would never, ever have a chance, would never be given a chance. Never. And they were, and they started training, they started working. And, we met a lot of, really, really neat people.
We did
through wrestling. And now I'm watching, I've been out of it for a little bit, and I'm watching some of these beginners that we had that are on the shows weekly and regularly and getting this shot that I just don't think they would have ever had. And that all stemmed from the fact that Danny and I said, we've got something that we want to help give to other people because we love it so much. We enjoy it. There's no reason they can't be a part of it. Right. And we pulled them in, and I think it's one of the biggest changes that MPW has seen, is just the way that these people have integrated.
Look, that's like the all are welcome from.
And I will say that the guy that owns MPW, his name is Paul. He's very big on give us you're broken and you're hungry. Like, he'll take anybody that wants to be involved. He'll give them a home, and that's the one thing I really like about the promotion that we're involved in. Is it's not a keep everybody out. It's a safe haven for whoever wants to try to be involved. It's a home. It's a place of welcoming. And
that's those are those Catholic values shining through, even in the weirdest places,
right?
Where you might not think that you would see them.
Yeah, and I think that was always everyone's mentality. But I think Jason and I were like, let's make it a reality. That's what everybody wants it to be. But Jason and I were like, let's put it into practice and do it. And like you said, it's been a pretty cool thing to watch people kind of step up to the plate. I remember one specific instance where we had this really young guy. He was probably 20 years old, and he was too skinny to do anything. He probably weighed 100 pounds with a rock in each pocket. He was the smallest guy in the world, but he loved wrestling so much. And we had this student show that we were going to do where invite your friends and family. Like this, for some of these guys, it was the only time they've ever gotten in the ring, and they're probably the only time they ever will, for them to live that dream out, And this kid gets in, and spoiler alert: wrestling is a predetermined show. The winners and losers are determined ahead of time. If you don't know yet, you're still in the 80s.
You might get comments on that.
Yeah, sorry, but it's a predetermined show.
But I will say, for not being a wrestling fan and it's quote unquote fake, there's nothing fake about how you guys take hit and fall off the top
that's
ropes.
That's my bursitis elbow.
Yeah, like you guys get beat up and you do some crazy stuff. So there's nothing fake about that.
Right.
It's predetermined.
The predetermined outcome. That's how I phrase it. Anyway, it's a show. Just like you'd go see a play or a movie. Right. It's a show. We're just using our bodies to tell the stories. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this guy, we were in this battle royale where we were throwing everybody out of the ring, and it comes down to me and this kid. Me and my student, right? I was one of the Jason and I taught the class, and he thought I had told him ahead of time, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna throw you out, and I'm gonna win. And at the last second, I'm running to throw him out, and I whisper in his ear, and I said, "Switch," and he switches and throws me, and he thinks I'm gonna land and get myself back in. I threw myself all the way out, and the shock on this kid's face of that he just won. Yeah. You would have thought it was the WrestleMania main event that and his whole family was there and erupted. He broke down in tears. Yep. The rest of the class ran in and hoisted him up on their shoulders.
It was awesome.
It was this cool thing. And I walked out and through the curtain. I was the bad guy, so I walked out through the curtain and I just kind of watched from behind the scenes. But it was like the coolest moment one of my coolest moments in wrestling for me was to watch these people, this group of guys that nobody would have expected them to make it anywhere. To kind of have that camaraderie in that community. I always get the joke at wrestling that sometimes I have the Jesus factor. That Danny has the Jesus factor, so he'll help anybody. Yeah. But like that's my life. That's how we try to be, and
that's what we say on the podcast. That's what our whole podcast is about: is not being afraid to share your faith with the world in whatever you're doing.
Right.
And so even though it's wrestling, you guys are still doing that.
Yeah, right? and that was a big thing that Jason and we really brought to wrestling and to our school, our promotion. Jason and I also did a lot of charity shows.
Right.
We collected food during Thanksgiving. We called it the Wrestle for Hunger. We did a Toys for Tots where we collected for Catholic charities and donated all the toys to Catholic charities. And they were really, really cool shows. That and a lot
those
of
were probably the most fun we had. Right?
Oh yeah,
because we got to really just
we had
enjoy it.
We had Santa Claus came out and was beating everybody up to save Christmas, and we had all kinds of good stuff happening at those shows. And it was just really, really, really fun. And I think that we brought a positive to wrestling that on the independent level that didn't really, it's hard to find. And I think that something I'm very proud of is our work in doing that and kind of bringing our faith, because our faith is what drives us to be those people. God is what drives me to do that. And I think that it was cool to kind of make that happen.
There you go. All you guys that are listening that are like, I do this or that, and I don't know how I could bring my Catholic faith to that, whether it's a sewing club or
synchronized swimming
or something. Like you can find a way to bring at least your Catholic values to whatever it is that you do in this world.
Well, and I can tell you that a friend of mine also owns a martial arts school, and he has a student who's a pastor at a church in the Valley, and they actually had a program called Bible Beatdown. they would have martial arts training, MMA training, and they read and study and talk about it, and then they would fight afterwards. So yeah, you can absolutely bring
that's awesome.
Pretty much anything into it.
Remember I was talking about it when we haven't played for a while, but we had a consistent board game night every Tuesday. I was like, when we have more time, let's do a long format show.
Bible and board games.
Bibles and board games. And so it's a combination Bible study and like a nerdy board game. Right. And we would film it. And so if you guys would like that in the future, comment in. Yeah. We're a little too busy to do it right now, but that, again, just finding creative ways to insert your faith into things that you might not otherwise think.
And speaking of, and I can speak to it a little bit, so I want to talk a little bit about the school, the karate school that you own.
Sure.
Because I worked at it for a long time, and I got recognized.
You're still on the payroll,
great,
technically.
Sweet. So I got recognized all the time because of church.
Yes.
Because you have several parishioners for our parish that do karate at your school.
Right.
And I think honestly, two of your people that are instructors for you went through our confirmation program.
Right.
So
at least two.
Yeah, at least two. And it was a really cool thing. I think one of your other instructors is actually he works at a Christian church. Aside from working, you had two youth ministers working for you at one point.
Yep.
But the culture of your school is a really amazing thing, and I think that it really does bring the faith and bring the love of Christ. Even if it's not plastered all over the walls, it's there. It's present for sure. I watch a lot of kids. I've seen so many kids that'll leave the mat upset or crying because they couldn't accomplish something. And your instructors, in the way that you've kind of set up the culture of your school, is they believe that they can get back out there and continue to, be their best self and things like that. So how is that something that you've created?
Well, I've done martial arts since I was 10 years old. So I'm going on 35 years in martial arts. Wow. And yeah, I'm old. Probably your oldest guest? No, not yet.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely the oldest guest. Okay, good for you, Ryan. Finally.
No, but as I trained in martial arts, there was always a feeling, a sense of family, and I always felt that just fit. It was just right. And so my goal in my school is not just to be a place to train and a place just to come and work out, a place that you could belong and be family. And you talked earlier about, how our faith and the Catholic Church brings us together as a family. There's a lot of family value there. And so I always look for ways that we can bond. We do a lot of events in our school that sometimes have nothing to do with martial arts. It just has to do with building more of a bond with one another and helping grow each other, like you said, be the best version of yourself. And we always say our martial arts family, more part karate family. That's our thing, and that's what I think really sets our school apart from most schools is the way that the instructors care for the students and really bring them in. Because you go to school your whole life, and sometimes you meet a teacher that you have a real strong bond with,
right.
and maybe you remember that teacher for a long time because they took an interest in you, or a coach that really, brought you in. And, martial arts is not a seasonal sport. Martial arts is an ongoing. I have students, some of my instructors that started with me at 3 years old, and now they're, in their teens and early 20s, and some have gone off to college. I've had students that have gotten married, had kids. I've had to attend funerals for students. But it's all of these things, we're really ingrained in a part of their family. I look at Facebook all the time. I see people at mass all the time, walking up, saying hi. And
sometimes you're like me at mass, because I can't go to mass without somebody walking up to me. But I see.
Well, it was funny when we were standing together at mass the other day, because it was like, well, they know us because we've been friends for so long. But it's even someone made the comment like, oh, you can't even come to church and not talk to 10 people. But that's a great feeling. Something that I've done with our school. With my wife is awesome with planning just about anything, events. And you talked earlier about Catholic Charities and how much we've supported and helped out.
You guys do a lot of work with the food pantry during Thanksgiving. I remember helping you guys unload trucks and stuff one year. So
13 years, I think we have donated somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 baskets of food.
Wow.
By our, not, and this is not just me alone. This is just something that we were able to orchestrate within our school, where we do an event and we have a little kick-a-thon, and people go out and get pledges and sponsorships and help us pay for that food. So it's not just us doing it. It's us being able to teach our students to get involved in, community service and community support. So that's, wow. That's so amazing that you can do so much more, with your family.
Anyone can teach a kid to throw a punch or throw a kick, but it goes way beyond that. And you guys are truly doing that with forming your community, and your family, your karate family, and then you're helping support this community as a whole of our town that we live in, and just you guys are exuding these Catholic values in all that you do, and it's really beautiful to see.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah. It's a joy. People ask, why? I had someone ask me to coffee. We sat down at Starbucks, and he said, "Look, man, I know you're trying to build your business and you want your school to be big." He's all, "But you don't do it for the money. Why do you do it? Why do you do everything you do? Our holiday on High Street, celebrating Christmas and the holidays, and all this stuff that we do. Why do you do it?" I said, when you live in a community that has supported you for so long, we've been here since 94. When there's a community that supports us, it's only right for us to support the community and give back. And if I can teach one child to be a leader, that child can one day influence someone else. And in my martial arts field, I help people grow their businesses. Why do I do that? Because if I can affect one school owner, that school owner affects hundreds of kids. So it's just the one action that I take may spread, to thousands of people, which is pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. We got a few more questions we want to ask you. We're going to take one more quick break here, and then we're going to come right back.
Okay, so we're here. We're talking with you about all of the awesome work that you're doing community-wise and how that all has, where that stems from and stuff like that. So I want to go back a little bit to when you said you went through the RCIA program.
Right.
A big part of it was because you wanted to raise your daughter Catholic, and you thought, I want to do that too.
Right.
Since that time, since becoming Catholic, how has that affected your life differently? How do you see faith, religion differently? Do you feel you talked a little bit about how you always knew you wanted to be Catholic?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any sense of that fulfillment of that now that you are Catholic?
Yeah, I mentioned this to you before. I've gone to 50 masses this year, which is the most I've probably ever gone consistently in one shot. And when I leave mass, I really truly there's days, we all have it, right? There's days like I'd rather sleep in, or I'd rather do something else, or I just I'm not going to make time today. But I never ever leave mass feeling like, man, I wish I missed this one, or I always feel
it's really, like going to the gym, right? You never.
I really feel spiritually fulfilled,
right?
When I leave mass, I feel proud that I made it a priority, and that's really been the biggest thing for me this year in particular, is just making it more of a priority, not just making it something that I do, but making it. Listen, I have a busy schedule like a lot of people. There's just a lot of stuff, and I'm always saying, like, hey, if we don't go Saturday night, we're getting up early. We're going Sunday morning, because that's the game plan is Saturday 5:30 we're going, right? And if we don't, then it's 7:45 on Sunday morning. No matter what we got going on, we're gonna make that happen. And so as I move into this next year, the goal is really to get my family just as much feeling the same way. Because my kids are still 17 and 14, so I want to make sure that they see that example. A lot of times that is my biggest motivation to go, is to make sure that I'm that example for them. How has it changed my life? I think that it's more present in my mind, since meeting you, it comes up a lot. We talk about our faith a lot. We talk about just how it makes us feel and how it makes us think. And, it gives me a sense of accountability. I think that I'm a pretty good person in general, and I try to do good things, and I encourage other people to do, good things and go out. But the one thing that stands out to me is that if I'm going to ask anybody to do anything, I got to be that person first, and I gotta be that example. So I'd say that the biggest thing coming out of it is just even more accountability to live my life that way, and to help other people find that way.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, because our life should be a constant striving to be more like God, to be more like Jesus. And it's that helping others, serving others, putting others first, helping others to grow, helping others that are in need, all that stuff that you're doing on a personal level, but also that you're doing at a business level too, to help,
right.
Which is a really cool thing. So I think it all stems from our faith and our trust in Christ, and it bleeds into whatever else we want to do in our life. I will say this though, on that note, about when you want to make your priority with your family. I saw your daughter that night that I saw you at church. I went to In-N-Out because that's where my favorite place in the world.
Right.
And I was in line, and she came up and said hi, and I was like, I just saw your dad, and she goes, at church? Yep. And she goes, I didn't go. And I went,
right.
I know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, next time we'll see you there. She was just like, okay. And off she went with her friends. But like, so, it's there. And
you could probably, you could sense, she had a little bit of guilt,
oh, of
right?
course.
Yeah.
Especially because she saw me, and she goes, oh, shoot.
Right.
Because Mr. Church, I'm like, guess where I just saw your dad.
Yeah.
And she knew before I even said anything.
Our relationship, it has mostly been through wrestling,
right.
and training together, working out together. My kids, they don't see you as Danny the wrestler, really. They know you, Danny, as
confirmation.
Yeah. So
exactly.
And I love that they kind of feel like they're gonna. Whenever my students that haven't seen me in a long time, we have this joke in martial arts that when are you coming back? If you stop training in martial arts, when are you coming back?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same thing is in church.
Always.
I didn't see you on Sunday, or I didn't see you at mass. When are you coming back? It's the same. There's a huge.
There's a beauty to
there.
that, and there's a lot to that, because people that stop going to church for whatever reason, sometimes they're just taking a break, but a lot of times they don't come back because they feel no one misses them. And no one said that when they saw them go at the coffee shop or whatever. They didn't say, hey, I missed you at church last week. They saw that person that was always at church with them, and they said nothing. And they were like, well, if that person didn't miss me, then I guess no one really missed me at church, and I just don't have a reason to go back. So hold people accountable and say, hey, we really missed you. We'd love to see you back in church.
And it's that the thought of going to mass together, because I'll talk about my really quick on Christmas Eve. So my dad is so involved at the parish, like he's doing everything. The poor guy, like they make him do everything. Knights of Columbus, sacristan, all kinds of stuff. He had to do the incense at the 10:30 mass this year. But my dad was scheduled to do stuff at the 10:30 Christmas Eve mass. But my brother and I, we had stuff going on. So we're like, hey, Dad, like we're going to 7:30. But we go to mass together all the time. Like it's no big deal. But my dad was like, Christmas Eve mass, like mass is about family and we need to be together. So my dad was like, I'm going to both then. And my dad went to both because it was so important to him that we were together as a family.
Right.
So that all 5 of us were at mass together in the front row, taking our picture in front of the manger and all that stuff. Like that was so important to him. And then the dude, dad goes home, drops everybody off, and then goes back to do his duty.
My parents drove 2 hours on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
And they went to the final 2 masses that I played at so that we could be together as a family.
And it was one of those things where I'm Mr. Catholic, Mr. 2 Catholic dudes, Mr. Youth Minister. And I was just like, Dad, whatever. Like, I'll see you. I'm going to my mass, you go to your mass. But my dad was so much like, no, like we need to go to mass together. And I was like, dang, what a cool thing.
Yeah.
Like I really just was like overjoyed with that my dad wanted to do that. So like that invitation, it does, even me, I'm Mr. Church to everyone's eyes, but my dad still had to remind me that like the importance of going to mass as a family and not just saying, oh, it's no big deal. Cause it was a big deal to him. And it's, it felt really good to be there with my whole family that day.
So if you're looking for that sense of family and community, get yourself to church. And if you want more, get yourself to Jason's Karate Studio.
There you go.
And let's get some karate in your life.
Anyways, but thank you again, man, for coming on.
Thank
the
you
show.
guys. This was super fun.
We were trying to get you on when we first started, and now we're like 23 episodes in. We finally got you on.
I think I was supposed to do episode 2.
Yeah, something like that, and we had to keep rescheduling. But we're glad we got you on. Sometimes God, like I said, we wouldn't if we had you on episode 2, we wouldn't have had all this stuff to talk about. So God always has a plan. God moves how He wants, and we just have to.
We have one more question though.
We do have one more question that we've been asking our guests. We haven't had a guest, so people forget. But what is your favorite board game?
Favorite board game? I love trivia, so Trivial Pursuit has always been my favorite. Even if I don't know even if I don't win, it's something about trivia. I love it. So Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah. Do you ever go to like bar trivia or anything like that? Are you good at that kind of trivia too?
I mean,
just some people have like that recall ability. I don't have it, but
I just like to learn new stuff.
Okay, there you go.
So like even if we're playing the game and I just hear a question, some stuff sticks. I think the really dumb stuff is what sticks for me. Like,
sure.
But I mean specifically like I could probably tell you movies. I could tell you just about.
I was gonna
anything.
say if you got to do 80s movie trivia or Star Wars trivia,
I'm all about
Jason's
it.
your guy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
all right,
it was great to have you on, and we look forward to chatting with you again. And
absolutely.
Best of luck. Let's make that you in your continued faith journey and all that good stuff. And
thank you guys.
All right, we do have business to take care of though. We said it in our last episode. We were gonna
talk about our Patreon.
We're gonna list and thank all of our Patreon members because you guys are fantastic.
Yes,
you mean the world to us. So we're gonna list you guys right now and thank you personally.
So we got Ellis Kreiner, I think that's how I super apologize if I say your last name wrong. I'm not great at that. So Ellis Kreiner, Aaron Morning Red, Julie Cleary, that's my mom, Melina or Beauty and the Crazy, our number one fan. We appreciate her so much. Sean Ambrose and Todd Fredrickson. Thank you guys all so much for your generosity on Patreon. It means the world to us. It helps us to keep this going.
If you'd like to have your name listed on the show, you can find us at patreon.com/2CatholicDudes, and you can donate anything you can afford to donate. We appreciate so much. That helps us continue to grow and support this ministry so that we can continue to bring these podcasts to you.
Absolutely. And if you are interested in booking us to come to your parish, January, we're pretty booked for January, but we do confirmation retreats. We'll do day events, week events, whatever we can do. Please let us know. If you need a keynote speaker, if you need a musician, if you need both, we're your guys. We're going to be in Lancaster. This episode will have already after. We were just in Lancaster, California for an event, and it was absolutely fantastic. And we hope. I'm sure it will be. And if you're going to Congress in February, LA Archdiocese Religious Education Congress.
We say Congress, people are like, "What, you going to DC? What's going on?"
No, Religious Education Congress.
Yeah, Los
for the
Angeles
Archdiocese.
Religious Education Congress in February, mid-February. Yeah. We'll be there.
We'll be around. Come say hello to us. We'll be vlogging. We'll be talking. We want to meet everybody. So come say what's up. And
hit us up on that Instagram. That's where we love connecting with you guys.
Yeah, we're almost to 3,000 followers. So tell your friends, share us. We want to hear about it. Make sure you're always checking out Tuesday Thoughts on Tuesdays and Wednesday Psalm of the Week.
All right, Jason, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is a blast. Let's do it again sometime. For sure. And that's it.
All right, peace.